All right, recording in progress. And welcome again. This is Promoting African Mental Health series on mental health in Africa, around the world, the diaspora. And today is October. We skipped September. We're going to be talking about marriage and relationships. And so all our topics are going to focus on relationships. So feel free to put your questions in the chat room. And if they're not in the chat room, then we are going to have you maybe come on video and talk about it. As you can see, I have some little person still running around here. But we're excited about this, being able to share with you guys from our life experiences, and also hearing your experience where you are in relationships, because we have a whole spectrum of experience in relationships. And I'm so excited to see one of our favorite therapists in Nairobi, Miss Nesta Theory, joining us. That's going to be really exciting to be able to hear some connection. Hello, Miss Nesta. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Yeah, doing very good. We're so excited to have you here as we present asking for your wisdom. So, so today we want to talk about relationships and communication, and then feel free to mute yourself until you're ready to talk. And that way we won't have any of the background noise for anybody else who's on the call right now. And we also actually said, please post in the chat room where you are, and that way we can see what city and country you're coming in from, all right? All right, so the thing about communication, that's not what I said, which was the thing, is because a lot of us have had that experience, whether it's relating with parents, family, mostly our loved ones, spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, the people we are engaged to, whatever situationships that we are in, complicated. When people answer, it's complicated. And Dr. Leo did put on there, if somebody has an issue with entanglements, aka Jada and Will Smith, we might be able to handle a little bit of that, although chances are we will give you a referral and help to be able to deal with that. So the fact that we have a couple of therapists on here is really good, because we'll be able to point you in the right direction. So today we're going to be starting straight out with communication. And I'm going to show you the presentation in a little bit. And then my husband is going to join us, because we're going to also have a section that covers what men believe and how men view communication in a relationship, and in general, just relating, because the dynamics of male relationships is not the same as how as women relate. So, and that's a good thing, because we're able to appreciate each other wherever we are. And I do see that we have Owens on the call. I want to say that Owens is probably a guy, maybe not. But either way, we'll have some guys chiming in as soon as we can, all right? So we literally have one of the calls, one of the questions that we have in the chat is literally about a partner who doesn't respond to messages during the day, and not really responding in the evening either. And then this person has addressed it, but they haven't been able to have it resolved. So this is one of the things that we're talking about today, and we'll be able to cover a lot of the questions at the end. But I'm going to put it out there that hopefully as we talk and as we present, you're going to hear the answer, but we'll come back again and look at it, all right? So you guys, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, night, feel free to have your water, your tea. In my case, I still have coffee in the morning, whatever it is, as we sit and chat. Thank you, Owens, for clarifying. Owens is a man. That's what I thought, sir. Thank you for being on here. Please let us know what city and country you're joining us from. Miss Praise Okoh is the therapist. She's based in California, as I said. And so she's joining in and answering some of our questions in between. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. And This is today's presentation on promoting African mental health, which says, that's not what I said. How many times have we had a fight as a couple? And a fight in general is somebody else because we misheard them. We did not hear what they said. So my name again is Julia Sanna. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I am also a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida, which is in the USA, in the southern side, which means we're surrounded by water. A lot of our climate is a lot like Kenya, where I was born and raised, beautiful Kenya, where I was born and raised. So my specialty is really marriage and relationships. That's a lot of my work. And then I also do a lot of work with people struggling with stress and anxiety. So today's topic is going to be about this. And let me make sure that I have everything good to go. Back. All right, let's see. All right, so I have been married for 21 years. This is a picture of my husband, and he's gonna be here in a little bit. So we've loved each other, been in a relationship for 25 years and married 21 years. And even though people see pictures like this and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so nice, life must be amazing. It has been really good. It has also been a life that has also experienced sorrow, because that's the reality of being in relationship and in life. We are also Christians and believers. And our relationship with God has been a great source of strength for our lives as we go through the ups and downs in life. And so today we're going to be showing you the reality of relationships, the fact that everything is not always great and everything is not always bad. So there's the balance between the good and the bad, the joy and the sorrow, and how to make it through no matter what season it is, especially how we communicate with one another. It doesn't matter if you need to deal with finances in your marriage, in your relationship, if you need to deal with your in-laws, if you need to deal with your personality styles, how to do conflict resolution, any of that. The truth is you're still going to need to figure out a way how you can communicate about those different issues, right? And then we have 4 children. And I put on here the fact that we've experienced 3 miscarriages. To also show you the fact that joy and sorrow coexist even in this situation of our family life. We have the 2 boys and the 2 girls. And then between our son and our daughter, I experienced 3 pregnancy losses. So loss is something that I'm intimately aware with, especially the loss of pregnancy 3 times. So that's something that I have a very tender heart for women and families who've gone through that. I know in our African culture and in general, we do not talk about these things. And it's a very negative thing that we don't talk about it, because women think they're going through it alone and no one else has been through. So I always make sure to mention this is something I've experienced, so that women that get help, they're able to know that there's help available and I can help you figure out what to do, and I can point you to a resource. So here we go. So I wanted to, as we talk about this, our proverbs as Africans, there's a part that I want to make sure that we actually look at. What marriage, I want you guys to go in the chat room and type this up. What marriage or relationship advice did you receive from our African elders and family members? All right, you see question 1. What marriage or relationship advice did you receive from our African elders and family members? That might have been uncles, aunties, mom, dad, our elderly relatives. You know, the advice that you're given, go ahead and share in the chat room. And Miss Praise and I are going to be looking at it, and everybody else is going to share it. So we can just have some fun together and see. Let me see, I'm seeing a couple of people typing in. All right, let's see. All right, we're waiting for the chat to come up. All right, guys, so go in the chat room and type in some of the advice. It doesn't have to be something long, it could be something short. And then we're going to hear what you guys experienced and what you discovered with that. All right. And then which of that advice do you still practice today? All right. Which of that advice do you still practice today? And which of that advice did you disregard? All right. So go ahead and answer those questions in the chat room, because we want to see some of the fun that we're having together about that. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second, just so we can see each other. And right here is my husband, Julius Sanna. He is also a pastor, and he's going to be sharing a little bit with you guys. He's a pastor, he's a musician, he's a jazz musician. He is a portrait artist. We have a lot of his art around the house. So as we asked, what is some of the marriage advice that you guys received from your relatives? Oh, look at that. Marriage is hard work. Mr. Owens shared marriage is hard work. Babe, did you hear that at some point?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we all had, right? My tribe, so my husband and I, Julius and Julia, he's from the Luo tribe. He's Luo and Zigua because his mom is from Tanzania. And I'm Kamba. My family heavily raised in the Kamba tribe in Kenya. And my father's family is from Land. So between us, we have 4 tribes, but really we grew with 2 strong cultures, the Luo culture and the Kamba culture. So, so there's that marriage that we get from our families. And Miss Nesta posted on there, I made my decision how to stay happy and fulfilled. I'm happily married, so I'll stay. That's wonderful. And I'm so excited because Miss Nesta will be sharing with us in a little bit. And he's helping me too. All right.
Marriage is beautiful and extends beyond the 2 people. That is very important.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because in our African cultures, true, right? Marriage is the family. It's not just the 2 of you. So we see that from Benita. Marriage is beautiful and extends beyond the 2 people. It is a marriage of 2 families and 2 clans. That is true.
And that affects everything.
It does.
How you approach marriage with that kind of mentality and that realization.
Yeah.
That it's not just the 2 of you, it's the 2 families blending together.
So I guess this is a time, if for anybody who's married on here, if you're married, feel free to share that online. If you're dating, if you're in a situationship where you're kind of trying to figure it out, let us know. If you're in an entanglement or having an affair, I know you're not going to let us know, but if you need help, please post it in the messages, in the private message, directly to me or directly to Miss Praise Okoh, and we are going to help you figure out what to do, okay? So thank you again for this interesting comments online. Miss Praise, if I miss any, please just speak up on it as I keep sharing. I'm so excited that we have Nigeria, Kenya in the house, US, a couple of countries. As you come in, also share the city and country where you're coming in from. All right. So I'm going to go back again and we look at the question that we had up presentation. All right. Let's see. So what marriage or relationship advice did you get? And then what did you practice? What do you practice today? What advice did you disregard? In our case, I remember being told it's very important as Christians and Africans to honor our culture, but to also pray against any influence that had, especially because our cultures have strong belief in curses and blessings, to be able to pray for blessings, have the blessings of our elders in whatever we did, blessings of our grandparents if they were available, or family members, and also to pray against any of the curses that anybody had either put on or things that were going on in the family that had generational patterns that you wanted to break. That was one of the advices we received. Do you remember? I'm asking my husband if he remembers some of the advice we received from family.
Yeah, I think it was the blend between our Christian background and our African culture.
Yeah.
That was a delicate balance.
Yeah, because as Africans, we have to be careful not to think that things that are African are not holy, because sometimes that's a misnomer that we've had from the cultures that we've been in. And Miss Nesta also shares, marriage needs to be worked on like a plant. You nurture it, you add manure and you add water. That's beautiful. Our Proverbs, just because the lizard nods its head does not mean it's in agreement. Just because the lizard nods its head does not mean it's in agreement. And this is one of the proverbs that we would hear our families share around the world, around Africa, because it's a really interesting one because we have a lot of lizards here. And so just because your partner is nodding their head does not mean they're listening to you. They could have zoomed out and you have no idea. So it's important to always think about that in communication. This is a Swahili one. Babe, you want to read it?
Okay. Mwenye maneno mengi hayo.
Haoi.
Haoi.
So this is one of the ones that
Never
we
heard
call
of
that.
this one.
Yeah, mwenye maneno mengi haoi ama haolewi.
Oh,
which is
okay.
which is another way of saying the one who is too talkative never marries. It was a warning about us guys being able to listen to one another. Like, don't talk too much, listen to your partner as well. So that's one of our listening proverbs. So today we want to share about what's called Gottman's Horsemen of Communication. So we've all had, if you've ever read the Christian text or Christian Bible, and even I believe for our friends who might be of the Muslim faith or some of our African religions, we all have apocalyptic teachings about how the world ends or what happens at the end of the world. And so there's the concept of the Horsemen of Apocalypse. This is the Horsemen of Communication Apocalypse. So the first one is criticism, all right? And this is when you verbally attack your partner's personality or character. So you're always looking at them in a negative way. You're criticizing, you hardly ever bring up anything positive. And even if something good happened, maybe they went ahead and washed the car for you, but then you'll go something like, instead of saying, oh, thank you for the car was washed, you might be like, well, you forgot to add the windshield fluid or something. So you're always finding something negative. So that's a criticism. So the antidote is the medicine for that. And this is called the gentle startup. So it's talking about your feelings using the I statements and express a positive need. So in other words, I really appreciate the fact that you washed the car. Could you please help me figure out how to refill the fuel, refill the windshield fluid or brake fluid, whatever it is. So in other words, it's a gentle startup and an appreciative comment first, and then asking what you need. And I think we've been pretty good through the last 25 years that we've been together, rather dating and loving each other and being married, about this, being able to use I statements. To be honest, it's not all the time because we're human beings. You have disagreements. So you guys type in the chat room about this. As we share the horsemen and the antidotes, please feel free to type in the chat room about it, and we will be going through them. And we're also watching the time to make sure that we stick on time, since we're done at 1:30. So we're going to make sure that we stay on time. All right. So the next one is contempt, and this one is really tough. So the Gottman's Horsemen of Communication are actually predictors of a couple's chances of divorce. I need to let you know that. So they say that if these 4 particular horsemen are constantly in your relationship, then your relationship is in danger. If these particular 4 horsemen are constantly in your relationship. So the goal is to help couples. The goal is to help you be able to figure out the antidotes to this. As I shared, a lot of my work, daily work, literally, is working with couples, married couples, dating couples, engaged couples. So I do this on a daily basis. And I can predict, unfortunately, most of us therapists or pastors can predict which couples are not able to or will not be able to make it if they don't remedy some of the things. So contempt is one of them. It's actually one of the worst because you're attacking your partner's sense of self with an actual intent to insult or abuse. So you're not just criticizing them, you're literally going at their sense of self-worth. And in fact, a statement that would be that way is a statement which is very applicable to a lot of us. So your husband comes home, and I'm going to use that phrase. Your husband comes home from work, because this is what most of us do. If you have a new baby, chances are the mom is home with the baby before you go back to work. And so this is an example of a wife coming up and saying, all you did when you got home was sit on the couch and play those video games or watch soccer or whatever. And here I am, I cleaned the house all day. And then, so that would be a normal complaint, right? But she adds this part: "You're so pathetic. You're so useless. I should have listened to my family when they told me to marry Kamau down the street." So you see, that contempt is the problem.
That's the worst.
It is the worst, isn't it? So the antidote is building a culture of appreciation, reminding yourself or your partners of your partner's positive qualities and finding gratitude for positive actions. Right? So as you share about this stuff, guys, talk about it on the chat too.
Because the fact that you're with that person means that you must have seen something positive in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, it's easy to forget those things that were positive if you're obsessed with the negative. And so I like the way you put it there. Remind yourself of the positives.
Yeah.
And let them kind of come up to the surface, because guys don't like when they're, it's very easy to beat down a guy, and they will coil and just crawl away or become, passive aggressive, or they will become, they will just stop getting involved. And some, they get into a place where they just maintain. I think that's a disease that is affecting a lot of relationships, where one partner just becomes maintaining status quo, just maintaining the peace, so that days can just go by. Let's just not kill each other here. Let's just keep going. So you do, and then it becomes a dry relationship where it's not robust, it's not fun. People are just kind of partners, like business partners in a house. So it's very important to be intentional and proactive about bringing those positive qualities and bringing to the surface those things that enrich the relationship.
Yeah, Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Owen said in marriage communication is key, but so is a sense of understanding.
Oh, that's good.
So true. That is so true. Thank you.
I think people's listening skills. Because a lot of times we listen, we hear people talk, we hear our partners talking, but we're not listening, we're not really hearing what they're saying and what they're telling us. And then that goes to people shut down. They just go with a thing and not communicating with each other. But even if you're communicating, are you really listening what your partner is saying?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Because most of the time we listen with no intention of understanding. We listen with an intention to reply. So you already have your reply in your head, and all the other person is just talking, and you can't wait to say something on top of whatever they're saying. And it's an art. You know what? We need to say that it's something that you have to work at. It doesn't come naturally and easily to do that, because we get caught up in our own emotional. In our own emotions, and it's important that we get to that place where we intentionally learn how to do that. How do you learn how to listen with an intention of understanding rather than an intention to just reply?
Yeah, thank you for that. So going back on here, we're going to look at the next horseman, and that would be...
There's no chance that it's
one. No, okay, yeah, we just took a look at it. So the third one is defensiveness, victimizing yourself to ward off perceived attack and reversing the blame. And I want us guys to think, which of these have you done? Because I've done the first one. I've done criticism and I've done defensiveness. So I want us, this is real life, guys. We're not here to pretend that everything is hunky-dory and we do everything perfect every time.
No.
So I've been defensive before, and I've been like, what do you mean? And it's kind of like an oppression Olympics where I'm like, but I suffered too, and I went through this, and so why should you think that I did blah blah blah? So victimizing yourself to ward off perceived attack and reversing the blame on your partner when they tell you they did something. In fact, my husband pointed that out once when we're having a disagreement, and then we usually have disagreements and then have conversations about the disagreement. So that way we're able to correct each other, so that when we have a next conversation, we can not do the same thing. Yeah, do better. So one time after we had a disagreement about something and kind of solved it, then we talked about that disagreement. So he said, you know, every time I correct you, I tell you something, you're not as fast to apologize, or you're always defending yourself, but I'd like you to know that this is something that we need to fix. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm practicing defensiveness. So that's one of the things that I've had to learn myself about defensiveness. So the antidote is taking responsibility. And I would add taking responsibility and apologizing when you need to. So accept your partner's perspective and offer an apology for any wrongdoing. It doesn't mean your partner is always right. And I know there's a nuance about that, right? Because sometimes your partner is not right. But the thing is, if what they perceived was an injury to them, what matters is how you react to them in love, right? Because I might not have meant it badly, but I said a statement that came out really horribly. So it doesn't matter what I meant, it's how it came out to you. So if you say I need to apologize, I need to apologize. So that's the antidote, accepting your partner's perspective and offering an apology for any wrongdoing. And we're gonna cover the part about if there's abuse going on, so don't worry about that. But this is in general in relationship, in relating to one another. So guys, go online and share if any of these are some of the ones that you've struggled with. And we're looking at the chat right now. And it says, in marriage, Miss Nesta shared, in life and marriage, you have to know a 4-letter word. Love has joined you, don't let it be hate. So in other words, love has joined you, so don't let hate become part of the equation. That's a really beautiful advice. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Miss Nesta. So number 4 is stonewalling. And this is really, really, really bad. Whenever I counsel couples, and this whole last 2 months, the couples I've been counseling with, I've been talking about this withdrawal, because a lot of us women, for the sake of keeping peace, we withdraw emotionally when we're in a fight. And we don't answer the questions, we don't express, we tell our husbands, boyfriends, spouses, people we're dating, engaged to, fiancés, we tell them nothing is wrong. They're like, what's wrong? Nothing. How are you doing? Fine. Yeah. But they can feel a volcano in the room.
Yeah.
And then we stonewall them, don't want to talk, we leave the room, slam the door, or just go shopping. So stonewalling is withdrawing to avoid conflict and conveying disapproval, distance, and separation. And this one, I have to take it on us women. We are experts at expressing resentment without saying a word. Our bodies, our faces, our expressions, the atmosphere that we will have in the house, we will tell you, you're totally in the wrong and life is over as you know it. So stonewalling is that, and it's really tough because your spouse doesn't know what to do, how to fix it, because you're not telling them. So I always share with couples, please give your partner the gift of knowing how to serve your need. Give your partner the gift of knowing how to serve your needs instead of stonewalling them. Because if they don't know how to serve you, you are actually shortchanging yourself and you're taking from them the ability to serve you, to love you through meeting your needs. So the antidote.
Why does it happen like this? Because I know sometimes I've been, you know, I would do this. I would withdraw, or I would. It's not just a women thing. I think guys do it too, where they withdraw and say and pretend it's like, okay, for the sake of peace in the Middle East and rest in the West, we withdraw and pretend like, okay. And here's sometimes maybe something that motivates, like in my case, sometimes what motivates is like, okay, if I just avoid this now, maybe time will heal this. You know, maybe by in a week's time, maybe this will be not an issue at all. And so maybe I'm overreacting. Sometimes we evaluate our own reaction to something and they're like, maybe it's not a big deal. So I'm just gonna like, I know my partner made me mad. I know I don't agree with what they did, but okay, you have to pick the battle now. Do you confront and deal with the issue, or do you let it go and live in a pseudo peaceful mental state and just realize later that he doesn't? So anyway, just a thought to think about, because I know sometimes that's how I process it.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. We have a question on there. There's a couple of questions and comments that are coming in, and we're looking at them before we continue with the presentation. And let me see, I saw one. Benita shared stonewalling mostly because we don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. This is true, right, Miss Praise?
Yeah.
And then let's go down again. Someone asked, how many times though do you have to address the issue if you've addressed it previously and with your partner and nothing changed? So how many times are you supposed to address the same issue?
Wow.
If you've talked about it before and nothing changed?
Are they saying that that's when they practice stonewalling? Because nothing has changed before. So are you mad? No. It's, and then you walk away from the situation because you've dealt with before, you've been disappointed and you don't want to deal with it anymore. So is that, maybe that's where the question is. I was just wanting to know what the backstory is.
No, the question is that, but also just how many times do you have to keep addressing an issue with your partner in the context of that communication?
Okay.
If every time you address it, it's not been fixed or the person has ignored it.
Okay.
So Ms. Praise, do you have some advice for us on that?
I was told I was echoing, but I think.
Oh, you're good now. You're not echoing.
Okay. I think a big part of it, I have to go back to being an African. I still have a lot of Africans that are surprised to see some of us Africans as therapists, because we were raised that a lot of things are fixed in church and it's fixed in the home. So I'm saying that because that now we're bringing therapy to the forefront. We're now talking about going and seeing a therapist. This will be the time where you start looking and thinking, is it time for us to go see a specialist? Is it time for us to go talk to somebody outside the two of us, outside the family, someone that's neutral, that can see both sides, point things out. Sometimes when you talk and talk and talk, you do get tired of talking. You do get tired of not being heard, not being listened to. So when do you get to that point where you start exploring a professional, talking to someone that could help navigate that and actually teach you how to communicate and how to talk? No, I talked about active listening more, but also I communicate better. How are you saying it? How are you talking to the person? How are you pointing things out? Are you pointing it out in an accusatory manner where they stop listening? Are you talking about it where you're talking about it and they're listening more? So again, I don't know how to fix that. So again, it's more about how we are communicating and who do we go to talk to that can help us work on that before we give up and stop talking to each other.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Praise. That's really good advice. That if you discover that things are not working out, just please don't give up. Go ahead and talk to a professional if you need to. So that's really good. If the partner that you're speaking with, that's the time to bring in a third party. Thank you, Praise, for bringing that up, because that's a very African thing, by the way, that we were taught to go ahead and bring in a third party. Whether, I remember back in the day, it would be family members coming along, if it's aunties with the bride, the wife, or uncles with the groom, or just the elders. When we visited in the village, obviously like visiting our grandparents, then it would be the circle that you get to sit in. I have really fond memories of things like that, where you just hear this advice. So this is really, don't suffer alone. If your partner is really not responding to your need, then it's time to bring in a trusted, by the way, the key word is trusted third party. So if you trust an elderly couple that has mentored you, please mention it to them then. If you trust your pastor, your leadership, your spiritual leadership, your pastor, please talk to them. Have them come in and try to help you out if they can. And then please, a professional resource is always available. Whatever country we're in, when you type in counseling, like when I type in counseling in Kenya, there's so many amazing services, and we have therapists here from Kenya serving in Kenya right now. And one of them is Miss Nesta Theory. She's on there on the website. She's based in Kenya. There are quite a few, some amazing groups in Kenya. Nigeria has amazing therapists and counseling groups and companies and churches that specialize in therapy. South Africa does, so does Zimbabwe, Zambia, because we have friends and therapists from all those countries. Ethiopia. I've worked with clients who are out of the country. I was even able to find clients who therapy services in the Middle East, because I was seeing them and they were in the Middle East. And to coordinate with therapists who were in the country that they were in, because I don't want to mention the countries because some of them are sensitive countries, but wherever they are, I was able to actually find a therapist and psychologist for them to collaborate with. So this is a good question too, before we complete the final one. Ms. Nesta asks us, what happens if the loan partner attends just 1 or 2 counseling sessions and then abandons it? So I'll tell you what I do for my clients, and for you, for us guys, everybody on the call right now, if you're not able to finish your counseling sessions, maybe because your partner decided they don't want to go anymore, or you're like, this feels discouraging because you're the only one getting help, don't give up, because it's possible for one partner to learn what they need to do for themselves, for them to experience some joy, a level of joy in their life. Remember, joy is a constant state of being. It's not about the happening. Happenings is about happiness. I mean, happiness is about happenings. So that means whatever is happening in your marriage, whether it's good or bad, you're either happy or sad. But joy is constant. It says there'll be ups and downs, but I'm staying joyful. So the goal in most therapy working with clients is to help you figure out how to have a state of joy, so to speak, in your relationship. So if one partner is not attending, you attend and gain for yourself what you need to gain. In fact, you can even make it an individual session. And I've had my couples do that. I've had couples be the first, have one, either the wife attend or the husband or the boyfriend, girlfriend attend, whichever one wants to attend. And as we talk, and then their behavior changes. So when they go home, I'll usually have the other partner call. And they're like, I think I want to come in. Because they're like, something happened. I don't know what happened to my partner. Something is different. So yeah, I want to come in too. Can I have my own, or can we have one together? So if the loan partner just attends 1 or 2 sessions, we're not responsible to make you come back into session as therapists, because it's a personal choice. So we can't make you come back into session if you want to abandon, but we keep it open so that if you're coming back again, then we either deal with the same issue or we do a new intake. New intake just means new paperwork with a new presenting issue, or if we're continuing the same one. But that's how I deal with them. Ms. Praise, how do you deal with that? With one person who attends and the other one who doesn't want to attend, or they abandon the sessions?
I was shaking my head because I do the same. I always encourage the partner that stops coming to try to come back, but the one that continues, we switch to individual sessions. I've had on two occasions, the partner that abandoned therapy comes back because they saw a change in their partner. They saw the joy that you were talking about. It may not be happiness, but they saw joy. They saw something different, and they wanted that same thing for themselves. So they will come back and say, okay, whatever you're doing with her or him, do it with me too. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything. It's just therapy. It's about you and what you want to change in you. And what we see is when something starts changing in one person, it encourages the other person to also want some kind of change for themselves. So understanding that I'm doing it for me, which will affect my relationship, affect my marriage, will also encourage the other person to come along, unless they've completely checked out. Sometimes when they've completely checked out, or they're stuck in their ways, it's harder to change. And that's when you have to make your personal decisions on how you want to proceed. But for the most part, we do see positive changes on both sides.
Yeah, thank you. So Angela shared, when we're back to the whole stonewalling on communication, she shares stonewalling is because you've been hurt a lot and don't want to be hurt anymore. At one point, the person's capacity of getting hurt is full. There's no more space to get hurt. And really that's true, right? We stonewall because we're like, I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Nothing's changed. So, and that's where I like what Miss Praise shared and Miss Nesta too, that's when you go in and you bring in a third party because whatever you're doing is not working. So have a witness come along with you. And then Benita shared also, how do you get past this when you have exploited all ways to get your partner to understand the situation? Sometimes you have to keep the calm because you recognize the other person is incapable of seeing things from your point of view or empathizing with your situation.
Sometimes you just reach a point to keep calm.
To keep the calm. In other words, you're just stonewalling and pretending there's peace because you recognize the other person is incapable of seeing your point of view or empathizing with your situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's not ideal, right? Where you just kind of maintain. But how long can you sustain that? How long can a relationship be sustained based on okay, I know you have this bad habit or this is a problem you have, but I'm just going to empathize and just deal with the situation. Speaking of Africa, I don't know how many of you realize a lot of our parents stayed together 40, 50 years, and all they did was the other partner decided, this person is incapable of changing. I'm the mother, and we've got kids, and I'm just going to stick around. And so you do have a marriage, but it is not ideal. It's not healthy. It's not the way to move forward. My prayer is that in any of those situations where the other partner is not changing, my prayer is that as you involve the third party, as you involve counseling, and speaking of involving a third party, every relationship benefits from having healthy relationships outside of themselves. In other words, other couples that both of you trust and love and enjoy to spend time with. And so that if one partner in a relationship has a problem that you as the other partner in that relationship is unable and incapable of solving, then when you call a third party, it's not some strangers. It is another couple that you trust. And maybe if it's the husband, he trusts the guy in the other relationship and he can listen to them. So that's why marriage is not an isolated relationship in society, especially as Africans. It's not just an isolated relationship. I think it thrives when it is surrounded by other healthy relationships and other healthy situations so that you're feeding off of a positive, general relationships that you have with other people. And that plays a part. And this starts from the beginning. So it continues through the entire relationship. Yeah, because I know there's a lot of our parents and our grandparents who just stuck it there. They didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
They were conditioned to just think, this is it for me. Unfortunately, it's a sad situation, but I'm not going anywhere, and it's not healthy. It's not ideal.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. Because I think we all know that, right? And especially our cultures that are accepting of, I don't know that the women are necessarily accepting, but because our cultures have been polygamous from the past, and in Kenya, polygamy is actually legal right now, but there was also the culture of the side piece or the girlfriend, or then during growing up, it was ndogo in Swahili, which was the younger thing, the young thing. And so parents, what we learned, what we were taught, and through behavior of observing relatives doing that, was pretty much the woman stays because they're like, you know what, he's bringing the food home, he's doing ABCD. If that's the only thing he's doing, as long as he doesn't bring it home. But that doesn't mean that she's happy or joyful. But if the table is flipped, the men will not stay. If it's a woman is doing that, then the men will not stay. They will find another way. So it's important.
That's true,
yeah, it's important to find help about that. And here's a question from a guy, a question about guys.
What does it say?
So it says, Cold War from a guy's point of view is traumatic. Guys don't say anything and say they're dealing with issues, the man I'm dealing with keeps bringing the issue up. So Cold War, from a guy's point of view, is traumatic, and sometimes men don't say anything to deal with the issues. But you know what? You just said that sometimes men are like, I just want the peace. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and we find other things to do to fill that void. We get involved in sports. We binge on other things. Unfortunately, if you have an issue with alcoholism, then that goes there. You find other ways. Oh, you find other relationships, even with other guys. Sometimes it's not about having an affair or anything. It's just finding something else to fill the void, and then you disconnect, which is not ideal. But yeah, guys are very vulnerable to that type of reaction when it comes to. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. And Owens shared something really important from a guy's point of view. You want to read that? Owens?
Healthy relationships require you get out of your feelings so you can have a true conversation. Yeah.
Spoken like a guy. We hear those.
Get out of your feelings, man. Get out of your feelings. Come on. Don't be so caught up in how, and getting into your feelings can be a selfish thing. It's just about me, how I feel. So I don't even want to have this conversation because I don't care. I only care about, me and how I feel about this. So people have to realize marriage, man, it's, when you took that vow, it's between the two of you. You're never an individual ever again. The Bible says that when you leave your mother and you're cleaved, you become one flesh. Therefore, everything that happens in that one flesh affects the other part. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. In order to have a true conversation, you can have a conversation, but it can be so superficial and so fake because you haven't gotten out of your feelings. So, yeah.
Hey, but being in your feelings is fun, people, isn't it? Being in your feelings is fun. I like being in my feelings. But in order to have a genuine healing conversation as a couple, it's really important to put aside your feelings to be able to listen to the other person, because we're still talking about stonewalling, and stonewalling is because of that. Your feelings are so hurt that you're like, okay, I'm shutting down. I'm not showing you what I feel anymore. And I'm literally staying in that sense of hurt without being able to deal with it. And then there's, I see a couple of comments that came in as well. You choose to be more mature than the other partner, but keep watching to know how to engage a third party, which is just what we spoke about. Hello, Joseph. So glad that you joined us, Pastor Chege, I believe, saying this is a great session and you're enjoying it. Thank you so much. We're going to open it up in a little bit. Let me finish the last part of this. I know this is too exciting, which is great, because that's the point. We're trying to help ourselves be able to know what to do. So if you've been stonewalling, the antidote, the research done by the Gottman Institute, shows that the antidote is physiological self-soothing. In other words, take a break and spend that time doing something soothing and distracting for you. Because sometimes you're in so much pain and anger about the issue that trying to deal with it right then is not going to work. So if your temptation, or if you've only resorted to the stonewalling, that's one of the things I'll share with my couples when I'm doing couples counseling, and especially when I'm doing therapy for engaged couples. I always talk to them about dealing with anger. One of the things to do with stonewalling and anger is to just say, I can't talk about this anymore. And guys, I always tell people, please never, ever in your life hang up on your spouse. And I learned that the hard way. Don't ever hang up on your spouse, because you need to be able to have a conversation afterwards. Even if you can't talk right then, just say, bye. I can't talk right now, let's talk later. So in other words, you're taking a break and spend that time. If you're running, if you're a runner, you're a jogger, you love exercising, you love cooking is self-soothing for you, go make the best mandazis, go make the best fufu, go make the best jollof rice. I know the argument between Ghana and Nigerian jollof rice, but so mandazis, pilau, whatever. If you're chapatis, if you're a person who finds pleasure baking, whatever it is, do that to soothe your spirit, because you're distracting yourself until you calm down. We guys have an African saying, and I remember growing up with this saying, the way to get mad, when it rains and we get mad on our shoes or on our dresses because the drivers weren't watching, if you try to get the mud off at that time, if you try to get the mud off at that time, the mud will just spread all over your dress because it's wet. But the best way to take it out is let it dry and then you flick it off and you don't have too much to wash afterwards. And this conversation about hanging up on your partner when you're mad comes from something that happened with us earlier in our marriage, probably year 2. And for the guys who came in, I was sharing that my husband and I have loved each other for 25 years and married 21 years with 4 children and 3 miscarriages. So we've gone through joy and sorrow. But one of the things that we've learned is about that communication and not hanging up on one another. And my husband taught me a lesson real hard, because I remember when we were about first year of marriage or so, or dating, one of the two, I got so mad at him because I tended to get dramatic. I got so mad, and we used to have flip phones then. So I just flipped the phone shut, and didn't say anything. And then when he called me back later, he was very quiet, didn't yell, never yells at me then, even now. And so he told me in a very quiet voice, never, ever, ever hang up on me again. Never, ever, ever hang up on me again. And because he said it in such a quiet voice, I have never hung up on him ever again in the last 24 years, because I learned the importance of this. And then because we've had our loved ones die, unfortunately, especially right now, all of us in this chat right now, in this webinar, we've experienced loss. We know a family member who's been lost. We have, whether they've passed away from natural causes like our grandparents, or COVID, or illness, or accidents, whatever it is, or like we've talked about, pregnancy losses, or even unfortunately our own children or parents, whatever it is, we've all experienced loss. The problem with loss when I'm doing grief counseling is the ability that people say they never got to say goodbye, or they remember the last conversations they had, and they're like, I was so mad at them, I hung up. So please don't hang up on your partner. If you're angry with them, just say, I can't talk right now, I'll talk later. And then at least then you can close the phone down, and then you have to come back to the conversation later. So
and the other partner needs to, when somebody says, I need to talk about this later, then let them have that ability, right? Instead of saying, oh, no, you cannot hang up. Let's deal with this right now. And you insist, and then it escalates the whole thing. So yes, don't hang up. But if you're on the other side of the phone, let them process the whole thing. Don't force them to stay on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. He just brought up something so important that I really wanted to make sure we talked about today. What he's talking about, that Praise and I, and Brenda is on here too, our therapist friend, our sex educator expert in Canada is on here, and Miss Nestor, and I believe Pastor Shege as well. One of the things that we've talked with couples is about withdrawal pursual. So there's something called withdrawal pursuer cycle. And the withdrawal pursuer cycle is when one partner tends to be a withdrawer. So whenever things happen, they withdraw. They don't want to talk, they want to be silent, they want to process. A pursuer personality type in relationships is a person who wants to chase the problem, fix it right now, let's get this done right now. So most couples tend to have a pursuer withdrawer dynamic. So it's really important to learn what your partner is, and then do the communication dance based on that, because the withdrawer will not process. It doesn't matter how much you chase them. In fact, they shut down even more because you're completely chasing them. And then the withdrawer needs to understand ignoring your pursuer's real perceived issue is not going to work. So go ahead and find that balance in between. And what we tell couples is, if you can't talk about the issue, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide, schedule a time when you're able to do it. And I'm actually, we're going to pull that up in a few minutes. We have some stuff in the chat room right now.
Angela agrees with you. You're talking about it.
Yeah, also Angela says also letting your partner know that you're upset, which is what we're talking about right now. Yeah, that's true. So let's look at the final slide, which is how to have a difficult conversation. So let's say that you're facing something that is so hard to talk about that you're just not able to figure out what to do. Difficult conversations. So this is something that I put together. This is something I actually use in therapy with my couples. And it's also out of some programs that I use for premarital counseling and marriage enrichment when we do marriage sessions for couples. So number one is schedule the talk and define what the real problem is. And this is to avoid, if you couldn't talk about it, you wanted to hang up because the conversation was so tough, go ahead and schedule the talk, which is, can we talk on Saturday? Because we're both off of work on Saturday. Or can we talk about this evening? Let's go out for dinner, or let's go out for coffee and have a talk, or go walk in the park and talk about this. And then the most important thing about this is to define what the real problem is. Because sometimes we put everything in the pot. So my husband says, for example, he wants to talk about the children, maybe the children finishing their homework. By the way, these are real things. We're not even making it up. Getting the children to finish their homework on time so that we don't get these notices from teachers, right? But then when he mentions that he wants me to take care of that because maybe I'm home earlier with them, then I go like, but what about this? You never fixed this. You never did that. You never blah, blah, blah. So I'm not defining the real problem. No. I'm literally bringing a whole lot of things into the basket. And all he wanted to talk about was how do we get our kids to succeed academically? So define the real problem. So if it's lack of time together, be specific. When couples tell me, oh, our problem is lack of time together, I'm like, lack of time together for what? I want them to be specific. So they're like, lack of time together on a date night, or lack of time for our sexual intimacy, or lack of time for talking about our financial issues or financial planning, or lack of time for family. We don't get to see our family. So when you're specific, then you have specific solutions to the problem. So number one is own your contribution to the problem. So in the case of the homework example I gave, this is real. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of work, and I got distracted, I'm cooking, because this is the dynamic in our own family. For couples that live outside of Africa, the way we relate with one another is kind of different from the way couples at home relate. A lot of us don't have a house help. We don't have or nannies, we don't have drivers to drive your kids to school, or somebody cooking, or mom living with you to help you cook, or any of that. We are all doing it as a couple. So both my husband and I cook. When we switch out on whoever is available, we take care of the kids based on whoever is available. There's some things that I do, though, a lot more. Like I really am mostly the cook.
Yes. And
I'm the taxi driver for the family.
Yes.
So I drive everybody everywhere. And then my husband has a busy schedule because, as I said, he's a pastor and a whole lot of other things. So his job keeps him busy. So the contribution to the problem is important. So for example, I'll say I was too busy, and he might say I came in home late, so I wasn't able to help the kids. By the way, number one does not apply to an abuse victim. If you're experiencing domestic abuse, this does not apply to you, okay? So if you're being abused, it's not your fault. I want to point that out, because people, sometimes in our culture, we tell women it's your fault. What did you do for him to beat you? It's never your fault, ever, 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 because a human being has the capacity to control their emotions. And if you think that's not true, have you guys, when you're fighting, have somebody's boss call them. What will they do? They'll be like, hello, how are you? How can I help you today? All of a sudden, they're able to switch because they want to keep their job. So we are capable of controlling our emotions. There's no reason for any person to physically hurt, emotionally abuse, or verbally abuse a partner. So it's not your fault. Please seek help. And if you need help, we can point you out to resources for domestic violence, whether it's here, whether it's in Kenya, Nigeria, any part in Africa. Literally, we can help you research and find help where you are. So please note that number one does not apply if you're an abuse victim, okay? I don't want you to think you contributed to being beaten. That's not true. But in this situation, it's contributing to the problem. So number two, share, brainstorm possible solutions together. So then we're like, okay, when you get home, get the kids to do the homework, whatever it is, and then select the actual solution to apply to an issue. So maybe you brainstorm 5 things of what the solution could be. Let's say your issue was you're not having enough date nights, or your partner is not talking about issues with you. So maybe the solution would be, maybe I'm talking to you at the wrong time. So let's not talk while you're doing your homework. Maybe your partner is in college. Or let's not talk to you while you're doing your work project. Maybe they're a teacher, they have to grade papers, or they're in hospital, they have to work a different shift from you. So And then it could be let one person plan the tickets for the date night, whatever it is. So you brainstorm, pick a solution. Number 4 is really important. So the way you own your contribution to the problem in number 1, number 4, you own your contribution to the solution and you act. So you own your own contribution to the solution and you act on it. So for example, let's say, number 1, I was giving my own example. Let's say I own the problem. I'm like, I was cooking and I forgot to check if the kids had finished their homework. So I would own my contribution by saying, before I started cooking, I had the kids sit on the table and do their homework then. And by the way, this is something that we've had to do in real life. So when we get home, I'm like, okay, sit, do your homework, and then you can play afterwards. So then you own your contribution to the solution. So I didn't just tell my husband, Julius, that I'm going to tell the kids to do their homework. I literally did it. I made them sit down and do it. So you have to own the contribution to the solution and act on it. And then we review the results and adapt if necessary. Number 5 is very important. You don't want to just schedule, define the problem, own the contribution, brainstorm, find an actual solution, own your contribution, and then you don't review it. We need to review the results and adapt if necessary. So that means, is this working or it's not working? If it's not working, let's move on to the next brainstorm item that you have in number 2, all right? So I'm gonna stop sharing right now, and then have us guys chat about this, because this was quite a bit that we've shared together up here. So yeah, oh, someone else is coming in. Thank you. Yeah, I just let her in. Welcome everybody. For everyone who's just joined us, welcome again. All right. So we've talked about that. Please, yeah, go ahead and if you have a comment or want to share with us, go ahead and do it.
And just to add to the scheduling, the discussions, I do that a lot with my couples, where we work on them scheduling a time that works with both of them. But before we start, we have to come up with what I call fair fighting rules. Because you have to have rules to have discussions. You have to know that when I'm speaking, the other person doesn't speak. When the other person is speaking, that goes with the communication. Be able to express your feelings without being in your feelings, right? Use your words. The same thing we tell our kids all the time, use your words. As an adult, we have to use our words. You have to express those thoughts and feelings, but you do it in a way that works. You cannot be degrading to your other partner. In African cultures, especially, we tend to, this is what I've seen in the Nigerian culture, where men will call women all kinds of names and call them out of their names and say things, even though this is your partner, you still talk to them any way you want. That doesn't work when you want to communicate with each other and when you want to talk to each other and have these hard conversations. You have to not only take turns, but you have to pay attention to what the other partner is talking about and come up with solutions. So coming up with fair fighting rules goes along with that scheduled conversation. It does work. It takes a lot of work to get there, but it works once you have it scheduled and set, and it becomes a pattern in your relationship, where sometimes you don't even have to say, oh, we'll talk on Saturday at 10 a.m. It kind of automatically just start working and you just flow with it at some point, but you have to put in the work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. We have a comment from Nesta. Look for an appropriate entry point in the conversation without anger and arrogance. And let it be a specific issue, not just a blanket issue. So in other words, look for an appropriate entry point in the conversation and try to come in without anger or arrogance. I would say curiosity to see where your partner is coming from. Very good. Right? Having a curiosity on where they're coming from. The other piece they added was planning is key and being able to accommodate one another. That's a really good word, right? Accommodating one another.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we do enter those difficult conversations with a preconceived set of ideas and thoughts on what we want to accomplish. So the words arrogance and what do you say? Arrogance?
Arrogance, yeah. Arrogance, not being able to accommodate.
Yeah. That's very important because yes, you can come in with this strong like I'm going to educate them. I'm going to show them that they are wrong on this, and they're going to join my way of thinking because I have this figured out. I know why we have a problem in this area, and I'm going to bring my ideas, and they're going to cross over to join me in my way, the way I interpret the whole thing. So coming in with that open mind that I could be wrong. I could be wrong in how I do this, that I could probably change because we have a way of doing things. We have a way of doing life. We probably have a way of that we know how to raise our kids, for example.
Yeah.
You are raised in a whole different situation than I was, right? And so I might come into a conversation thinking and drawing from my past and have these preconceived ideas on how we should do this. And I come into the conversation with the intent of convincing you that you're wrong and I'm right, and that's going to be the win for me. But I like the approach where I like the rules of engagement. We're going to go into a discussion here, and here are the rules. I'm not coming in to convince you. You're not coming to convince me, but let's talk together and find the best solution to this problem. So yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and I love it. Praise sharing about the speaker listener technique. Because when we're angry, thank you so much, Praise, for that. When we're angry, we forget. We forget to do the speaker listener. And we're just stuck on, I don't want to accommodate you back in this conversation. I don't want to accommodate you. And it's true, we're so good at telling our kids how to communicate, as Praise was sharing, and we do not show them by example. There's something I want to point out about that. There's a group that I belong to on Facebook that has been such a help to me as a mom and as a wife and as a woman. And I put it in that order because it's about conscious parenting, the groups on conscious parenting. One of them is called Parenting Decolonized. And it's about the ways that we've been taught to parent our children, either in our African cultures or in the Black American or Caribbean cultures, where sometimes in a way we were taught that children are there to be seen and they have to obey, but they don't have their own feelings. They're little things without their own feelings. They only get their feelings when they get older. So we don't necessarily honor their feelings, that they're little human beings too with feelings. So conscious parenting has been about that.
And they have something to teach us.
They have something to teach us. And I remember when our kids were little, at least with the second one, because we have 4 kids, I remember when they were crying and they were 2 years old and I couldn't figure what it was at some point. And then I'm like, if you're not able to talk, you don't have vocal cords that can form words, then you cry about everything because you don't know how to say I'm hungry or I'm cold or I'm tired, I need to sleep. But if we're constantly disciplining and spanking our kids without finding out why they have the emotion they have, we're training them literally to be stunted adults emotionally. And guess what happens? Then Miss Praise and I and Nesta and Brenda and Pastor Shege, who also does counseling, we're getting their money. They're paying us for counseling. Literally, they come into counseling when they're in their 30s and 40s because they can't relate, because it's something from our childhood that has taught us your emotions and your feelings are not important and you need to put them aside for the sake of the adult instead of being able to express yourself. So that has been part of the conscious counseling of being able to honor our children. And in fact, in the Bible, it comes close to that, right? Parents don't exasperate your children either. So it's communication like that. And I've been very guilty of that. So it's something that I've learned that I wanted to share with us, but I don't want us to be able to close out without having some, if you want to come live on video, please feel free to do that. We want to hear your comments. Feel free, Miss Brenda, anybody else on here, Nesta, Pastor Shege, anyone else online who wants to just come up on video and either ask a question or answer a question for us. We want to give you that opportunity. We don't want to close out before we do that, all right? So we're going to give you 2 seconds to think about it. If you come live, we'll just go ahead and accommodate you and switch out to you. And we have another comment. Ignatius, thank you, Ignatius, for joining us. He says, thank you for bringing up the Godman's Horsemen. Never heard of them. Very good home take. Thank you so much. Very good points about that. Thank you.
Hello, this is Zippy. I'm part of this conversation that has been everything that inspiring spells out. Now, I have had to come in real quick because I am at a doctor's office with my kids, and I'm afraid my buzzer is going to go on.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that you truly did hit you struck all the codes of things that I was thinking about as an aspiring family and marriage and family counselor. And in addition to the things you're highlighting about culture and the perspective and the role it plays in our perspectives and stuff like that, I just want to also add that it does help a lot for even I, as I say this, I am reminded to put myself in context. And I say this because sometimes in this context of being a parent, a wife, in the United States, and yet I want to place myself in the context in Africa, and not only that, in a very unhealthy context, so to speak, and then I just miss out on what I really ought to be dealing with. And so that for me, that's the one reminder that and takeaway that I'm giving myself as something I should be intentional about as an individual and as a counselor. And one of the things I think I will ask you all to keep me accountable is to emphasize on rediscovering ourselves as we within this marriage context, within a larger context that defines us also, whether it's environmentally or otherwise, to always be realistic about those parameters. So, yeah, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. That's really good info. Thank you to everybody who's joining us. Anybody else want to share before I see Joseph Chege, are you available to say a word? I know you're off video and on mute. And all right, I'm gonna have my husband, I'm gonna now have him put on his other hat. He has many hats, so I'm gonna ask him as a pastor, what's one of the things that you would share with us as we go out closing, maybe on this context of communicating with one another in a way that honors the image of God that we are created with.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. This was good for me as much as it was for anybody else. This is a good marriage tune-up hour. Marriage tune-up hour. So we are called to do life together in the context of a marriage. As we all know, marriage is designed by God. It's a beautiful thing, and it is ordained by God. But as human beings, obviously, there's a lot of bumps on the road, and we're imperfect people, and we face a lot of challenges in making marriage be what it's what's supposed to be. And God knows that. So he knows that, two lives coming together, 25 years coming together, getting married, trying to live under the same roof, and boom, there's collateral damage sometimes when those two collide. But God promises to sustain us. I like to remind myself, and I hope it reminds us all in our relationships, not just in marriage, but in our relationships. David prayed that, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, even though I walk through challenges, so it was not even though I walk around the challenges, even though I fly over the challenge, even though I walk through the valley of challenges, that I will know that you're with me and that his presence is with you. And therefore, I just want to encourage all that in relationships to put God at the center, because God, who created you in his image, he knows you better than you know yourself. He knows the relationship. He knows the nuances that you don't even see. And you have no clear picture of exactly what that relationship all about, what you are all about, but he does. And therefore, it behooves us to consult and to be connected to God through every challenge that we face. So there are some challenges, and I'm sure the counselors in the room can attest to this, that seem impossible. You're like, this one, I don't know how it's going to come out. This is going to be difficult. But yet, the Bible reminds us that nothing is impossible with God, and any relationship can be turned around and can be beautiful. And here's the last thing I will say real quick, and then Pastor Sheikh is going to say something. I just want to remind you, when you're in a marriage and a relationship, you've got to have skin in the game, right? Yeah. You've got to have skin in the game. And when you have skin in the game, you can be more committed. You've invested something in it, and you are determined to stay the course and make it work. And with the help of God, just like Abraham, that God did not seal the covenant with Abraham until Abraham had skin in the game, circumcision. And so that sealed the promise, that sealed the covenant. And so with God's help and his grace, I pray that I will be able to endure and not only survive, but thrive.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Yes, Pastor Shege, you can share with us if you have some sound. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And I've really enjoyed this. When building a marriage relationship, I've come to learn something over time but it's based on activities. Like you can have a lot of talk and discussions around children, around work and money, and then friends and ministry as a couple, and you talk a lot. But recently I came to ask myself a question. If you take away those activities about ministry and children and money and buying things and doing things, what remains of your relationship as a couple when you take away all those relationships, all those activities? And I came to realize that it's very important to remember that the relationship between you two, that love, the just being you and laughing and talking, and especially being friends and remaining friends is the most important thing in a relationship. I think that's all I wanted to say today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pastor Shege. Miss Nestor, did you have something for us? She's also in Nairobi. Pastor Shege is in Nairobi. You're on mute. You're on mute.
What I want to, thank you very much. This session is very, very important. But I always tell couples, if you look for something to get out of that house, you get out of that marriage. So you need to listen, you need to accommodate, you need to forgive. And sometimes the sin you cannot forgive your partner is the sin which God cannot forgive you. And God forgives all other or every sin. So let's look at God's creation and know that you are connected by four ones coming together to be one person or to be one unit. And sometimes that unit might not work. So we really need to trust in God and look for therapy if things are not working well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that advice. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We have some resources that when Dr. Lil sends out the information, she's going to have on there for you on how to get a hold of most of us who are able to help you. I put in my website there, earlyfamilyyears.org. And that way, there's a form for connection. You can always go ahead and click on the contact form and the email will come directly to me, or send an email to Dr. Lil, and we will find you the resource that you need. If you're looking for therapy, if you're looking for resources on victims, abuse, or even education, we'll be able to do that and connect you with a therapist, our own African therapist network, or other therapists available to you. And if you want somebody of faith, whatever faith, we have capacity for that. We all have friends who are Africans, and the people who don't have faith practice African religion. I have Muslim friends who are therapists. We have Christian friends who are therapists. So we'll be able to connect you with whatever you need to be able to get your need met. That's our vision for promoting African mental health, to be able to connect you with resources for you. And thank you so much, Ms. Brenda, and everybody who tuned in today. We're gonna stop the recording in a few minutes. I'm trying to see if I missed any. We tried to catch every single chat, every single post that had been posted on here. And I believe we got everybody. We pretty much looked at all the messages that were posted up here. So thank you so much. And I know we're from different parts of the country. So when you receive the recording of the video, it will have the slides that I had on there. It's gonna have them on there. So that way you can review that again with the video. So you won't have to worry about that. Because this is the final slide that I had on here, which had my information on there. So you'll be able to see that. If you're watching the video, you'll be able to see that, all right? So thank you so much, everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording now. What you have been listening to is Promoting African Mental Health webinar series. Today's hosts were me, Julia Sanna, licensed marriage and family therapist, licensed mental health counselor, and
Julia Sanna,
pastor and motivational speaker, musician, and portrait artist.
I didn't want to start. There's too many other things.
And Miss Praise is gonna.
Yes, hi, I'm Praise Okoh. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in California, and I also specialize in forensic therapy as well.
Yeah, Miss Praise does some amazing stuff. She has worked with the court system, with mentally ill, with veterans, with the homeless community in California. She's worked with the conservatory. The stuff that we've been seeing about Brittany, she's able to help families that are going through, especially older people, when younger people are taking advantage of them. She's been able to help them out with the systems that she's worked in. So she has a lot of experience working with in the community, especially with people experiencing difficulties. And then we have other therapists on here, and psychologists and counseling people, and pastors, and some of our friends who are on here today. I saw Miss Betty Ellis from Houston. And then we have somebody, Mary came in from Fort Worth. So thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. We went about 10 minutes over. That's not too bad. So thank you so much. God bless you. We are available. Please reach out if you need any more information. So thank you. And we also want to mention that we run an organization called Positively Africa. We highlight, my husband and I founded it in 2007, and we highlight positive things coming out of Africa and about Africa. So whenever you're on Facebook, feel free to like our page, share, we can share your stuff on good things coming out of Africa. Yes. So promoting African mental health is an awesome thing that's going on in Africa right now, because every country has a focus on mental health in Africa right now. So that's really cool. God bless you guys.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.